Okay, so this is my presentation. It's over the media and perception of culture. And my research question is today's media influencing or changing our perception of a culture's customs and traditions? So here I have a quote from Labyrinth, and it says, different cultures produce a different cool, and your perception of cool changes depending on where you are. This relates to the idea of how, based on where we are and where we are centered, this may change how we portray different cultures, such as Muslims. So this is the media coverage and portrayal of Muslims. In this graph, we see that media coverage of Muslims and Islam is generally unfair. That the majority say that it is unfair. The terrorist attacks that are covered in media outlets, such as newscasts, account for 75% of all the news coverage in media portrayals. ISIS, on these newscasts and media outlets, ISIS served as protagonists in 3/5 of the stories. Productive stories where Muslims are portrayed as productive members of society and how they actually help their community are overlooked. Coverage of refugees are negative. They show refugees being nuisances to society. And the underplaying of positive developments in the Muslim community, such as initiatives taken to get rid of these extremist groups who don't share the similar ideals and beliefs that the Muslim community shares, these positive initiatives are overlooked and not portrayed. So these are some of the media outlets presenting negative views of Muslims. They include NBC, CBS, Fox. The TV shows include Quantico, Homeland, and 24. And these TV shows are portraying Muslims as the protagonists and antagonists and the bad people of the shows who are actually causing the deficits in society. And these media outlets, over 75% of their stories actually cover Muslims and how they are negative to their community. In this graph, it says percentage of news coverage, just the media coverage of the Muslims, and the international conflicts and war and terrorism and security make up over 70% of the media coverage of the Muslims that are presented in newscasts. So results, 45% of Americans actually say they even know a single Muslim. So this leads to Islamophobia and people rejecting refugees into the country. This also leads to the Trump, where he gets his idea and portrays his idea on citizens that Muslims were a threat to American society, and that all these people have no sense of respect for human life. And so this leads to people in Trump not wanting to allow Muslims into the country. This also contributes to Trump's main idea that and his assumption that of the complete shutdown of Muslims entering the U.S. And this also leads to attacks and intimidation methods on Muslims. Muslims being attacked in various ways in society, in college, on the streets, schools, stores. And this also leads to 7 out of 10 people saying there's a lot of discrimination against Muslims. So in 2001, which is, this graph shows, in 2001, which was the year of 9/11, that the number of Muslim assaults increased to 92%. And then during 2004 and 2014, the numbers remained low but varied. And in 2016, when President Trump was elected, the number again increased sharply to 127%. Trump's accusations and reports have contributed to negative media portrayals of Muslims, that these Muslims are deficit society. So my connections to the stimulus packets and attitudes towards Muslims in the West, the notion of saving Afghan women. If the media has portrayed Afghan women as subjects of oppression from the men in the communities, and that these men are dangerous and oppressive to the women. This contributes to the idea that Muslim men are dangerous, which is what the media is portraying in their stories and their reports. To 3D pavement art, when looking at the 3D pavement art from far away, you get a sense of a false reality sense, and a false reality is presented to you that's not really there. When you get up closer to the picture, the real image is actually exposed, and you really see what's actually there. This contributes to the idea that the media just went over to Muslim societies and actually were there and got an up-close look on the society, then they would know what actually happens in the community instead of making general assumptions and presenting false realities of the Muslim community. So this connects to Alice Through the Looking Glass because the black cat is getting portrayed as the bad cat. Even if the other cats may have caused the problem, the bad cat still gets the blame. This contributes to the idea of how Muslims, even though not all Muslims are bad, some members of the community may be doing bad stuff, but the whole Muslim community gets blamed as one, just like the black cat was blamed for the bad things he was doing. So some solutions could be the news media outlets actually covering positive stories, and that these positive stories being the main focus of their reports. Also, Muslim stories not being the exact main focus, they can be like some focus of the media, but not the main focus of it, and not making up over 70% of the newscast reports. Also, an inside view of the Muslim community in actuality, instead of just portraying the Muslim community from an outside lens, which creates a sense of a false reality. And TV shows stop portraying Muslims as the main antagonists, and that these Muslims are being negative to society. And also people stop, Americans and American citizens stop generalizing ideas based on, and assuming things based on the ideas portrayed to them through the media. Some limitations to this could be freedom of speech and press, that the news media outlets they have freedom to say whatever they want, and TV shows have the freedom to present whatever they want. They cannot, also the media outlets cannot cover positive stories if the negative stories are outweighing them. Then this wouldn't allow the negative stories are outweighing them, so they have to present the negative stories. And TV shows not playing Americans anymore because Americans don't want to see their own kind being negative to society. They want to see others, and people are always going to have assumptions and assume things. So this is a limitation because they're always going to generalize assumptions based on what's presented to them. These are my sources.
All right. So let me ask you a couple of questions. What information did you need that you weren't able to locate, and how did you go about trying to find that information?
Some information that I needed was how these shows are actually portraying Muslims, and that if they could actually do this. I went about getting this information by actually watching Quantico. I did watch a few episodes of Quantico, and I realized that the Muslims, like some Muslim women in the show, were being portrayed like bombers. So that's how I went about getting information.
Okay. Second question. Explain how did you use the conclusions and questions of others to advance your own research?
I used the conclusions from other students because they were doing how the perspectives of society on another culture, and I use these assumptions to generate my idea that Muslims, generate my conclusions that Americans, based on what they know and what they're seeing presented to them, that they generate ideas based on what's presented to them, and so they don't actually know what's going on in reality.
All right. Thank you very much.